You guys are gonna need your colored pencils, so all of you should have gotten a 12 pack of colored pencils and then a pencil sharpener, and you should be good. So I'm just gonna walk you through each step. The first one we're gonna be doing is called a circular technique. I'm gonna use just any color. Just because you guys see me using green doesn't mean you have to use green. You can use whatever color you like. So circular technique is basically like controlled scribbling. So you're just gonna go in quick circular motions. If I'm trying to make it look lighter, maybe further apart, I might make my circular motions a little bit bigger, more spread out. If I'm trying to make it look darker, I might go press a little harder and make my marks closer together. Okay, I know this says linear, but we're actually going to be doing a technique called stippling. And stipling's when you basically put a bunch of controlled dots. Now, when I say controlled, I don't mean that they have to be perfect little circles like that. You're basically placing them wherever you want to create a texture. And if I want to make my area look a little darker, I would put my dots closer together. And if I want to make the area look a little lighter, I might not press as hard and I'll spread them out a little bit. What I don't want to see when we're doing stippling is this. Okay, you're not a woodpecker. It's just a very light touch. You don't need to stab your paper because you'll ruin your pencils. Hatching is our next technique. So hatching is basically when you're just taking lines and going in the same direction with them. They're parallel lines. You can go any direction you want. So I could go diagonal, I could go vertical, or I could go side to side, horizontal, okay? Cross hatchings, when you're doing the same type of technique as the last one, but now I'm gonna be going the other way as well to create kind of this crisscross pattern. Pressure variation is basically when you're taking a pencil and you're gonna be starting light first. And then as you go across your scale, you're gonna be adding more pressure as you go. There's something under my paper. I always say when you're trying to build up a color, start lighter and then go darker if you need. It's always easier to press darker with your pencil, but let's say you accidentally go too dark, maybe you press too hard, it is harder to take away that value. Sometimes if you use an eraser, you can pick up some of the color, but not always. Now the darkest, it says also called burnishing. So burnishing's when you're pressing relatively hard. I mean, you don't want to get like hand cramps or anything, but you're pressing hard enough to almost make a waxy film over your paper because colored pencils are made with wax. So burnishing is when you're pressing hard enough to create almost like a shiny film on your paper. Now you wouldn't want to burnish unless you're totally done with something, because like if I'm burnishing this and I want to go back and add another color or maybe a texture over top, it's going to be really difficult to do because that wax coating is protected. All right, we're going to do gradation next. Now gradation could be done with one color, or you could do 2 colors or 3 colors. I'm going to show you with 2 colors. And gradation's cool if you want to kind of transition your color. Let's say I want to go blue to green. And we want it to flow nice and natural. We don't want it to look like the green just came out of nowhere. So I'm starting on the left side with my blue. I'm going a little bit darker on the left side, and then as I get to the middle, I'm going lighter. And I'm kind of making it a staggered line, so it's not just one solid line. And then let's go in with some green. And I'm gonna start on the right side now. Start a little darker. Sorry about that, guys. They're practicing the bell schedule. And as I get to the middle, I'm gonna let up pressure. So my pressure variation was probably at this level, and now I'm letting up to about that second tier. Now, when you're doing a gradation, you do wanna make sure that the colors are gonna look good together. So I picked 2 cool colors, blue and green, but this may not flow as well if I had done blue and orange, okay? So you wanna make sure your colors are gonna blend in together nicely and naturally. And I'm just overlapping a little bit into the blue. And then I'm gonna go back with my blue and kind of do the same thing because we want it to look like a natural kind of ombre fade. This next technique is a tint. So a tint is when you're taking a color. I like to use a darker color for this, so I'm just going to use this red. I'm not pressing too hard. We don't want to burnish it. And then I'm going to take my white and go over top of that color. So it's just like if we were painting and you're trying to make a lighter tint of red, what would you add? You would add white. So it's the same thing. You're just adding white over top to create a new color. Shade is our next technique, so I'm going to use the red again. Remember, don't burnish right away because it's going to be hard to build up your color if you burnish right away. And then shade, I'm going to be taking black this time, and I'm going to go over top with the black. So it'd be the same thing if this were paint and I'm trying to make a dark red. I would add black on top. Now, since black is a dark shade, you don't want to press too hard with the black because that red's going to get covered up. So I might actually even go back in with some red over top. And if I were done coloring this area, it's okay to burnish now. But you only want to burnish when you're totally done with that section. So you can see this was the same red. This just has white on top. This has black on top. Value scale is really similar to the pressure variation. This time you're just trying to make it look smooth. So I'm going to start light. And when you're coloring with pencils and you're trying to like use your techniques, I like to use my pencil on its side. If you use it on the point, you're not going to get as much coverage. And I like to kind of go in a gentle circular motion. And then as I go on my scale, I'm just getting darker. It's okay if you go a little out of the lines. This is just practice. But this scale should look very gradual. It shouldn't just all of a sudden become dark. You really need to fade that out. Okay, I'm just going to show you guys one of these overlapping techniques because it's basically the same thing for all three. When you are doing overlapping, you want to make sure that you're picking colors that look good together. The same thing with the gradation. So I'm going to pick red and yellow because they're in the same warm color family. So I'm going to start with my yellow, just coloring it in. Then I'm going to bring that into the middle. And then I'm going to take my red start this way and then bring that into the middle. So in the middle, what I want you guys to do is practice blending the colors together. Because sometimes when you're working with colored pencils, you may not have the exact color you want, especially only having 12 pencils, but you can make new colors just by using what you have. So I made kind of like a red-orange here in the middle. And remember too, you can mix and match these techniques. So like I could do the overlapping technique with cross-hatching. So I'll show you guys how to do that in case you ever want to try that. So let's say I'm cross-hatching with this purple. I'm going to do the red. And then the middle, I'm going to do purple and red because I'm fancy like that. So you don't just have to always do one technique. You can really mix and match. When we do the project, I'm looking for you guys to use these techniques. So it would be really cool to see someone do cross-hatching, but also overlap the colors. These last two sections on our paper, it's basically you practicing the techniques that you just learned and kind of combining them on these examples. The only thing I want to mention before I speed up my video is that when you're doing something that kind of has this curve shape, you want your shading to also follow that curve shape. So how I'm coloring in this direction, a lot of times I see students try to go like this, That's fine, but it kind of flattens out the shape. So you want to try to follow the original line and follow that shape when you're shading, okay?